In Mythic Fantasy role-playing game, version 4 by Varg, there is the introduction of Hamingja into the game as a rule. I think it's quite interesting and I'll talk about it in this video. I first heard about Hamingja in this book here, Reflections on European Mythology and Polytheism. There's a section on it on page 18 which talks about Hamingja and how it works, and I think it's very interesting, and the concept of walking in shapes and forms, and from what I can tell, the concept of Hamingja means that it's a spirit, a guardian spirit that is within you and that existed before your corporeal form, and that will go on to exist in the future. So once you die, your Hamingja continues to live, and your Hamingja existed before this life as well. So in essence, your Hamingja is an accumulation of your good deeds in life, but it could also be bad things as well, because bad Hamingja, this section here mentions some interesting figures throughout history, and I'm sure many of you will have heard of them. People like Marcus Aurelius, Tore Hund. I'm sure there are other people from history that can't be mentioned in this book, people, and I won't mention their names in this video. But it is true that there are people from history that you probably think about every day, more than once, every single day. And those people can be seen as a white light, people who inspire you and strengthen you. When you have conflicts, you perhaps try and think of how they would have dealt with certain situations because of their honourable achievements. I think the world we live in today, sometimes certain people's Hamingja is twisted and corrupted. But again, I can't really go into too much detail with more recent characters from history anyway, for obvious reasons. But I recommend this book if you haven't read it before, Reflections on European Mythology and Polytheism. But let's talk a little bit about Hamingja in MYFAROG. So, now I haven't had a chance to play MYFAROG version 4 yet. Hopefully I will in the future, so I'm still getting used to some of the new rules and concepts. I think the D20 system is interesting, and I'll talk about it in another video. I think I've gone too far. I have, yeah. Yeah. So Hamingja, it's right at the beginning of the rulebook here. So it's on page 7. A little bit tricky because I'm wearing a headlamp and recording on my phone. So as this book here mentions, Hamingja, it's about your honourable deeds and the accumulation of that in your former lives and how it manifests into your next life. So in game terms, into your new character's life. So you're supposed to start your new character with 3 Hamingja points. So from that you can assume that your character's done some good things in his previous life to have those 3 Hamingja points. I suppose if you, for some reason, have the intention to play a really dishonourable character, then you could start the game with 0 Hamingja points or negative Hamingja points, depending on your character's background history. So you might have your character might have done something he shouldn't have, and that could be in your background story, but that's up to you. Now you can spend the Hamingja points at character creation, and there are some different ways you can do that, and the options here and the Hamingja cost. Quite a few different options here. There's one interesting one where you can spend all of your Hamingja at the beginning to choose your character's race or species. I think as a Myth Master, I wouldn't allow my players to do that with their first character if it's their first time playing MYFAROG. That's, of course, as a Myth Master, that's entirely up to you, but I think that's one of the options I would discard at the beginning with perhaps with new players, because you could quite easily choose one of the more you could say interesting and exotic races, such as the high elf or the wood elf or a half elf, a higher man even, and they start with some pretty good advantages over the more common man. You've got a much higher chance of getting better attributes and better modifications, better resistances as well, depending on the race or species. As you can see here, hopefully, resistance mods, skill mods, because some of the races in this game are also character roles. So I think that's something I would probably discard at the beginning, but if I knew the players, I would probably let them choose that if they wanted to. Personally, I wouldn't go for that one myself. I'd go for some of the other ones up here, where you can spend 2 points to gain an extra character role skill, 1 point to gain an extra train skill. Remember that a train skill can never be quite as good as a character role skill. You could spend 3 points to gain +1 to any one attribute, and that mod also influences the maximum attribute. You could spend 1 point to know an extra language. Explain how your character learnt it. Again, that could add a bit more to your character's background story. 2 points to gain a heirloom. I think that's a pretty interesting one there, and that's a new concept. So you could start off with a nice weapon that your character had in a former life, perhaps went into the burial mound and saw perhaps a long sword that he recognized from a previous life. Again, that's some nice background story and information, and the kind of thing your character would definitely want to hold on to throughout his career. You could spend a point to start playing with 2d6 ounces of silver, and 2 points for 5d6 ounces of silver, 3 points. So if you want to start with a bit more silver to play with to buy more gear, you could do that. You could spend 1 point for an extra talent. Of course, your character starts the game with 1 talent already, or 2 talents if you're playing with siblings or close kin family. You could spend a point if Bard, Ranger, Sorcerer to know an extra weak spell. So those are some of the ways you could spend your Hamingja points, or alternatively you could save the Hamingja points, or some of them at least, to use in game. So you'd spend a point of Hamingja to gain an extra +2 modifier to a skill or resistance test, but you'd have to mention that before you make the roll. So if you do that, perhaps in a tricky situation where you could use the +2 mod, then you spend that Hamingja point. and to gain Hamingja in game as rewards when you have to do honourable and heroic things. Perhaps to sacrifice yourself for the benefit of somebody else without asking for anything. That's, I guess you could say that's Hamingja, to do something selfless. Whereas doing the selfish things in life can give you bad Hamingja, and if you accumulate bad Hamingja, then the Mythmaster can use it against you in situations that you might not like. So the Mythmaster can take a point of negative Hamingja, and you get a, I think it's a -2 to a skill test or resistance test. So that's actually here, yeah. Point of bad Hamingja can be used to give the character a -2 modifier to any one skill test and to a resistance test. Only 1 point can be used each round. The Mythmaster should use the bad Hamingja when the player least wants him to, when the character needs good luck the most. Yes, that is how bad luck works. Your character should think twice before he commits any bad deeds, before he misuses his power or acts cowardly in an unjust way. So, yeah, this concept of Hamingja, really, it's to encourage you to, or your character to do the just and the honourable, the heroic things in game, and and these can be lessons for life as well. Doing things to to help people, or to help the right people, of course. So I don't think there's a lot else I can say about Hamingja, except I think it's a very nice addition to the game, and of course, if you for some reason don't like your character, you could sacrifice his life for the sake of somebody else, and then your next character would start with a very good, positive Hamingja. So walking in shapes, Hamingja, good thing. And let me know if you've used it in any of your games in the future. I'd like to hear about that, and hopefully I'll get playing MYFAROG again soon, either as a Mythmaster or as a player. So yeah, all for now. Bye.